Adrian Demont Washington was born on February 26, 1976. By the time he was 36, he was living in Austin, Texas, with his wife and their 3 kids. He was a steady guy, dependable, loving, and absolutely devoted to his family. Adrian wasn't flashy. He kept to his routine, worked hard, and showed up for the people who mattered. He wasn't the type of man who'd just disappear, but that's exactly what happened. On the morning of May 25, 2012, Adrian left the house in his black 2001 Ford Expedition. It had Texas plates, CP1 P982. Around 9 a.m., he stopped by the Planet Fitness on Anderson Lane in Austin. Then he headed to his regular dry cleaner. After that, surveillance cameras caught his SUV passing through a toll booth on I-45. And that's it. That's the last confirmed sighting of Adrian, or his vehicle. Then nothing. No text, no phone calls, no contact with his wife, his kids, or his parents. Radio silence, and everyone who knew Adrian knew something was wrong. His parents started calling around the next day, May 26. They checked in with friends, drove to the places he liked to go, hoping someone had seen him, but no one had. By June 1st, police were called to take a missing persons report. Officers sat down with Adrian's family, who told them point blank this wasn't like him, not even close. Investigators started retracing his steps. The Texas Department of Public Safety joined in, and the search spread all the way to San Antonio. And then things got weird. A few days after Adrian vanished, one of his 2 cell phones was found, just lying on a sidewalk in San Antonio. Not broken, not damaged. It looked like someone had placed it there, like they wanted it to be found, but not necessarily to help. That's when police started looking hard at someone close to him, his cousin, Allen Ray Washington. Aldo was the last known person to see Adrian. In the month before Adrian disappeared, Aldo had called his phone over 100 times. But after May 25th, not once, nothing. When questioned, Aldo said he was with a friend, Kenneth Ray Hamilton, around the time Adrian went missing. But the alibi didn't check out, and investigators started to think both of them might be holding something back. Still, no one was arrested. No one's been charged. It's now been more than 13 years, and Adrian's family is still searching for answers. His parents, his wife, his kids, they all want to know what happened after he drove through that toll booth. Who left his phone out on that sidewalk? And why would a man like Adrian, who built his life around family and routine, suddenly vanish into thin air? I checked for any developments, and the sad truth is there haven't been any major leads. Adrian is still missing, and his SUV hasn't been found. Chase Allen Lackey was born on November 22, 1991, to Debbie Diaz and Craig Lackey in Crosby, Texas. From a young age, baseball was his world. His mom remembers him making all-star teams starting at just 5 years old, and even traveling with the family to the Dixie League World Series. His dad, Craig, says Chase practically grew up on the ball field, and that love for the game never faded. By the time Chase was 25, he was still out there chasing fly balls, playing in a local softball league, living in Houston, and working as an iron worker for a plant construction company. He was known for being a thrill seeker, the funny guy, the one voted most humorous in high school. Wherever he went, Chase brought laughter with him. On June 30th, 2017, Chase played a softball doubleheader back home in Crosby. His dad made it to the first game and got to see him do what he loved. Sadly, he had no way of knowing that would be the last time he saw him. After the game, Craig gave his son a big hug goodbye. The next day, July 1st, a former classmate reportedly spotted Chase walking his dog, a small, light-colored Maltese named Champ, near East Sam Houston Parkway and Wallaceville Road in northeast Harris County. That's the last time anyone saw either of them. Chase had mentioned wanting to go to California, possibly to work at a cannabis farm, and his mom encouraged the idea. I told him, "Son, you're footloose and fancy-free. You're not married, no kids, go explore the world." But when days passed with no word from him, the worry set in fast. That same day, his sisters, Heather and Stephanie, went to check his apartment. What they found was unsettling. Chase and Champ were gone, but nearly everything else was there. His keys, wallet, phone, driver's license, social security card, debit card, passport, all left behind. His truck was still parked out front. No sign of forced entry, no note, no clue where he or his dog had gone. They filed a missing persons report with the Harris County Sheriff's Office. A full investigation began, involving multiple agencies, including the FBI. Police searched nearby parks, and the family passed out flyers all over the area, but nothing turned up. From the beginning, investigators suspected foul play. It was just too strange. His things left behind, no bank activity, no communication. Chase's name quickly became connected to a broader investigation involving individuals tied to criminal activity across several states. One name kept coming up, Matt Brewer. Brewer was described as an acquaintance. At one point, he allegedly made a cryptic call to law enforcement, asking what they'd offer in exchange for information about Chase. When told no deal would be made without knowing what the information was, he hired a lawyer and stopped talking. Later, he reportedly called a woman, possibly his girlfriend, and told her to warn several people to get lawyers too, because police were trying to pin Chase's murder on him. What made that call even more chilling was that, officially, Chase was listed as missing. No body had been found, no charges filed, so why jump to murder unless you knew something? Then things got even stranger. Investigators received an anonymous tip from someone using a childlike, disguised voice. It sounded odd, but the tip turned out to be helpful. Authorities said it connected 6 key points in the investigation. Everyone named as a suspect was somehow linked, either to Matt Brewer or another man named Addison Guerra. While police haven't said either man was directly involved, they do believe they know more than they're admitting. And there's more. During the investigation, police uncovered a possible connection to a second missing person, someone Chase knew. That individual also had ties to a marijuana grow operation in another state, one believed to be connected to the farm Chase was planning to visit in California. Investigators haven't confirmed a direct link between the two disappearances, but the overlap is hard to ignore. Chase Lackey disappeared on July 2, 2017, and as of July 2025, he and his dog Champ are still missing, and this case remains unsolved. Chenell Gilbert was born on July 8, 1977, and went by her middle name Renee. At 42 years old, she was working as a substitute teacher and living in Indianapolis, Indiana. Renee had 2 daughters, ages 19 and 21, and had recently become a grandmother. Her family described her as responsible, nurturing, and deeply devoted to her kids and grandbaby. She was the kind of woman who always showed up for the people she loved. On the morning of June 9, 2020, Renee was last seen around 6:18 a.m. at her ex-boyfriend's home in the 7,000 block of Mars Drive on the west side of Indianapolis in the Sungate community. According to her family, Renee had planned to return to her daughter's house later that afternoon, but when she didn't show up, her daughters grew concerned. Almost immediately, it was completely out of character. Her 19-year-old daughter used a location tracking app to check her mom's phone, and it showed the last known ping at the ex-boyfriend's residence. She rushed over and saw Renee's car still parked in the driveway. The man admitted Renee had been there that morning, but insisted she never came inside. Then he refused to let her daughter search the home. That set off major red flags. Police were called, but he wouldn't let them inside either, and it took several more days before a search warrant was finally issued. Renee's family believes that delay may have cost them crucial evidence. At the time she went missing, Renee was wearing a black jumpsuit. She had dark hair with gold streaks, stood 5 feet 2 inches tall, and weighed between 160 and 180 pounds. She had brown eyes and several distinctive tattoos, including a heart with the word love on her chest, an infinity symbol with 3 flowers on her left forearm, and a heart with the word CeeLo on her lower back. Adding to her family's frustration is the fact that the ex-boyfriend, who allegedly had a history of being abusive toward Renee, was never publicly named as a suspect or person of interest. In October 2020, Indianapolis police confirmed the case was no longer just a missing person investigation. But even with that change in classification, no arrests have been made. There have been no public updates in years. One officer reportedly told the family that the ex-boyfriend is no longer considered a suspect or person of interest, and with no new leads, the case has hit a wall. It's like Renee just vanished into thin air. Chenell Renee Gilbert went missing on June 9, 2020, and as of July 2025, she still hasn't been found. Her case remains unsolved, and her loved ones are still waiting for answers. Ebonee Shanetta Spears was born on May 12, 1985, in Wilmington, North Carolina. She was the youngest of 4, raised by her mother, Harriet Rivers. From the start, Ebonee was known as reliable and nurturing, a woman who took her role as a mother seriously. Her 13-year-old daughter, Anaya, was her world, and even as life threw challenges her way, she held on tight to her responsibilities and her family. But in 2015, things took a turn. Ebonee was diagnosed with lupus, an autoimmune disease that affects everything from energy levels to organ function. It was a lot to manage, and it took a toll on her mentally and physically. She began experiencing depression, anxiety, and later, episodes of paranoia and confusion. She was put on a mix of medications, one for lupus, another to manage the emotional roller coaster. Her family could see the changes, and they were worried. On the evening of January 14, 2016, that worry peaked. Ebonee's parents and her boyfriend met her in the parking lot of the Wilmington Police Department on Best Street. It wasn't far from her apartment at the Point at Taylor Estates, but she was in clear distress, agitated, erratic, and scared. Her family hoped officers or medics would step in, maybe even hospitalize her for her own safety. And her psychiatrist was consulted over the phone. But after about an hour, Ebonee seemed to settle. She was calmer, talking more clearly. So instead of taking her in, police let her go. Her parents brought her and Anaya back to their house on Price's Lane for the night. The next morning, January 15th, Ebonee seemed okay. She had breakfast with her family, and her dad drove her back to her apartment. They made plans for her to come back for dinner, but around 7 p.m., she called her mom to cancel, saying she'd already eaten and would just stay in for the night. That 7 o'clock call was the last time anyone definitively heard Ebonee's voice. Not long after, sometime between 7 and 8 p.m., Ebonee flagged down a van on Nixon Street. It was driven by an employee from the Community Boys and Girls Club. She told him someone was following her. She was scared and paranoid. The driver took her to the club, where she briefly spoke to a social worker before walking off again. Shortly after, she made her way to the Wilmington Police Department, the same station where she'd been the night before. Security footage shows her entering the lobby and asking to use the public phone, again looking confused and agitated. Detective Joshua Childress later confirmed that she never completed a call. Officers on duty noticed her erratic behavior and offered to help, suggesting emergency services again, but Ebonee turned them down and left the station on foot. Around 10:45 p.m., a neighbor saw her near her apartment. She asked him for a cigarette, and when he said he didn't have one, she replied, "I'll just go to the store and get some." That's the last known sighting of her. 15 minutes later, at about 11 p.m., her boyfriend used his key to enter her apartment. Her car was parked outside. Inside, everything looked normal. Her purse was still there, but her cell phone was gone. When he tried to call her, it went straight to voicemail. He waited for 2 hours, hoping she'd walk through the door. Finally, he called her parents. The next day, her parents came by. They noted there was no sign of a struggle and nothing looked out of place. But Ebonee and her phone were gone, and they reported her missing. From the beginning, police treated it as a missing persons case, but there wasn't much to go on. No signs of foul play, no leads. Search efforts ramped up fast. Police, volunteers, and even the Brunswick County Search and Rescue Team scoured the area. Helicopters flew overhead. K-9 units swept through wooded areas and ponds near the Boys and Girls Club, and her apartment complex. Still nothing. In 2022, the CUE, Center for Missing Persons, organized a massive new search. Volunteers passed out flyers, searched trails and streets, and even went as far as Georgia, where Ebonee had briefly lived. But every new search led to the same dead ends. No sightings, no evidence, no answers. Detective Childress said they've interviewed everyone who saw or spoke to Ebonee in the days leading up to her disappearance. Still, there's no clear explanation for what happened. Police haven't ruled out foul play, but they say there's no concrete evidence to support it either. Right now, the truth sits somewhere in the unknown. Ebonee Spears is described as 5 foot 3 inches, about 130 pounds, with brown eyes and brown hair. When she disappeared, she was wearing a green shirt and dark pants. Her car, her purse, and everything else was left behind, except her phone. She vanished on January 15, 2016, and as of July 2025, she's still missing and her case remains unsolved. Taprice Goodwin was born on March 5, 1993 in Dayton, Ohio, to Patrice Gentry and Derek Goodwin. She had a vibrant personality, a big heart, and a deep sense of loyalty to her loved ones. Taprice was grounded and genuine, someone her family and friends could always count on. She shared an especially close bond with her cousin, Ariana Middlebrook. Their connection went deeper than just family. It was like they were soul sisters. Ariana Lachelle Middlebrook was born just days earlier, on February 26, 1993. She was also raised in Dayton, surrounded by faith and a tight-knit community. After graduating from Trotwood Madison High School in 2011, Ariana continued her education at Miami Jacobs Career College. She was creative, resourceful, and full of life. Ariana loved designing clothes and planning unforgettable events. But more than anything, she was a proud and devoted mother to her 2 children, Marcus and Araya. Her friends admired her resilience, her quick wit, and the fierce love she had for her family. Both women had so much life ahead of them. But in the early morning hours of August 22, 2020, everything changed. Just before 3 a.m., a woman living in an apartment near Harshman Road and Tidewater Drive in Riverside, just outside Dayton, called 911. She told the dispatcher there had just been a shooting outside her apartment. She could see a car parked out front with its lights on and 2 people inside, neither of them moving. She also reported seeing 2 other cars screech away from the scene after what sounded like at least 6 gunshots. When officers arrived, they found a car with the engine still running and the headlights shining into the dark. Inside were Taprice and Ariana, both suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Taprice was pronounced dead at the scene. Ariana was still alive and rushed to Miami Valley Hospital, but sadly, she died from her injuries a short time later. Detectives quickly ruled out the possibility that this was a random attack. Surveillance footage from a nearby business captured 2 unidentified men walking near the area around the time of the shooting. Police released still images of the men, labeling them as persons of interest, and urged the public to come forward with any information. Authorities have never shared the identities of those 2 men. No physical descriptions were ever made public, and it's still unclear if they were ever found, questioned, or cleared. Nearly 5 years have passed. No arrest, no suspects named, no justice. Taprice and Ariana were taken from their families far too soon on August 22, 2020, and as of July 2025, their murders remain unsolved.